Donald Trump is accused of sexual assault by multiple women. His wife said he raped her before she decided to describe it differently. He is accused of raping a 13-year-old girl and walking in on teens in the Miss Teen USA pageant. He bragged of walking in on naked women at pageants and, of course, of grabbing women by the pussy. In his recent deposition in the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit, he claimed she liked being raped. Judge Roy Moore is accused of sexual assault and dating underage women. Rep. Jim Jordan is seeking to step into Speaker Ryan's shoes even though he is accused of ignoring sexual assault of young men, while a coach dismissing it as locker room talk. Former Republican Speaker of the House Dennis Hastert convicted of sex abuse. Former Cobb County Cop Chairman Joseph Russell Dendy, child molesting. So-called pro-life, anti-gay activist Howard Scott Heldreth was convicted of raping a child. GOP Richland County Commissioner David F. Swartz convicted of sexually abusing a girl from age 6 upwards, released after only 8 years. Republican Judge Mark Pazuhanich pleaded no contest to molesting his 10-year-old daughter. Republican anti-abortion activist Nicholas Morency pleaded guilty to possessing child pornography on his computer and offering a bounty to anybody who murders an abortion doctor. Republican Speaker of the House in Puerto Rico Edison Misla Aldarondo was sentenced to 10 years in prison for raping his daughter between the ages of 9 and 17. Republican Mayor Philip Giordano is serving a 37-year sentence in federal prison for sexually abusing 8 and 10-year-old girls. Republican campaign consultant Tom Shortridge was sentenced to 3 years probation for taking nude photographs of a 15-year-old girl. Republican racist pedophile and United States Senator Strom Thurmond had sex with a 15-year-old black girl which produced a child. She was underage. It was rape. Republican pastor Mike Hintz, whom George W. Bush commended during the 2004 presidential campaign, surrendered to police after admitting to a sexual affair with a female juvenile. Republican legislator Peter Dibble pleaded no contest to having an inappropriate relationship with a 13-year-old girl. Republican anti-abortion activist Howard Scott Heldreth is a convicted child rapist in Florida. Republican County Commissioner David Swartz pleaded guilty to molesting 2 girls under the age of 11 and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Republican Judge Mark Pazuhanich pleaded no contest to fondling a 10-year-old girl and was sentenced to 10 years probation. Republican anti-abortion activist Nicholas Morency pleaded guilty to possessing child pornography on his computer and offering a bounty to anybody who murders an abortion doctor. Republican legislator Edison Misla Aldarondo was sentenced to 10 years in prison for raping his daughter between the ages of 9 and 17. Republican Mayor Philip Giordano is serving a 37-year sentence in federal prison for sexually abusing 8 and 10-year-old girls. Republican campaign consultant Tom Shortridge was sentenced to 3 years probation for taking nude photographs of a 15-year-old girl. Republican racist pedophile and United States Senator Strom Thurmond had sex with a 15-year-old black girl which produced a child. Republican pastor Mike Hintz, whom George W. Bush commended during the 2004 presidential campaign, surrendered to police after admitting to a sexual affair with a female juvenile. Republican legislator Peter Dibble pleaded no contest to having an inappropriate relationship with a 13-year-old girl. Republican Congressman Donald Buzz Lukens was found guilty of having sex with a female minor and sentenced to 1 month in jail. Republican fundraiser Richard A. Delgaudio was found guilty of child porn charges and paying 2 teenage girls to pose for sexual photos. Republican activist Mark A. Grethen convicted on 6 counts of sex crimes involving children. Republican activist Randall David Ankeny pleaded guilty to attempted sexual assault on a child. Republican Congressman Dan Crane had sex with a female minor working as a congressional page. Republican activist and Christian Coalition leader Beverly Russell admitted to an incestuous relationship with his stepdaughter. Republican Congressman and anti-gay activist Robert Bauman was charged with having sex with a 16-year-old boy he picked up at a gay bar. Republican Committee Chairman Jeffrey Patty was arrested for distributing a video clip of a 5-year-old girl being raped. Republican activist Marty Glickman, aka Republican Marty, was taken into custody by Florida police on 4 counts of unlawful sexual activity with an underage girl and 1 count of delivering the drug LSD. Republican legislative aide Howard L. Brooks was charged with molesting a 12-year-old boy and possession of child pornography. Republican Senate candidate John Hathaway was accused of having sex with his 12-year-old babysitter and withdrew his candidacy after the allegations were reported in the media. Republican preacher Stephen White, who demanded a return to traditional values, was sentenced to jail after offering $20 to a 14-year-old boy for permission to perform oral sex on him. Republican talk show host John Matthews pleaded guilty to exposing his genitals to an 11-year-old girl. Republican anti-gay activist Earl Butch Kimmerling was sentenced to 40 years in prison for molesting an 8-year-old girl after he attempted to stop a gay couple from adopting her. Republican Party leader Paul Ingram pleaded guilty to 6 counts of raping his daughters and served 14 years in federal prison. Republican Election Board official Kevin Cohn was sentenced to 2 years probation for soliciting sex over the internet from a 14-year-old girl. Republican politician Andrew Burr was charged with 2 counts of first-degree sodomy with a 13-year-old boy. Republican politician Keith Westmoreland was arrested on 7 felony counts of lewd and lascivious exhibition to girls under the age of 16, i.e., exposing himself to children. Republican anti-abortion activist John Allen Burt was charged with sexual misconduct involving a 15-year-old girl. Republican County Councilman Keola Childs pleaded guilty to molesting a male child. Republican activist John Butler was charged with criminal sexual assault on a teenage girl. Republican candidate Richard Gardner admitted to molesting his 2 daughters. Republican councilman and former Marine Jack W. Gardner was convicted of molesting a 13-year-old girl. Republican County Commissioner Merrill Robert Barter pleaded guilty to unlawful sexual contact and assault on a teenage boy. Republican City Councilman Fred C. Smeltzer Jr. pleaded no contest to raping a 15-year-old girl and served 6 months in prison. Republican activist Parker J. Bina pleaded guilty to possession of child pornography on his home computer and was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison and fined $18,000. Republican parole board officer and former Colorado State Representative Larry Jack Schwartz was fired after child pornography was found in his possession. Republican strategist and Citadel Military College graduate Robin Vanderwall was convicted in Virginia on 5 counts of soliciting sex from boys and girls over the internet. Republican City Councilman Mark Harris, who is described as a good military man and churchgoer, was convicted of repeatedly having sex with an 11-year-old girl and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Republican businessman John Grunseth withdrew his candidacy for Minnesota governor after allegations surfaced that he went swimming in the nude with 4 underage girls, including his daughter. Republican director of the Young Republican Federation, Nicholas Elizondo, molested his 6-year-old daughter and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Republican benefactor of conservative Christian groups, Richard A. Dason Sr., was charged with rape for allegedly paying a 15-year-old girl for sex. Dason, 62, who is married with grown children and several grandchildren, has allegedly told police that over the past decade he paid more than $1 million to have sex with a large number of young. Republican State Senator Ralph Shorty from Oklahoma admitted to being involved in sodomy with a 17-year-old male prostitute and transporting child pornography. Republican Speaker of the House Dennis Hastert in jail for the payments he made to cover up raping his wrestlers when he was a high school coach. Republican judge and campaign official for President Donald Trump, Tim Nolan, indicted for human trafficking and forcing a minor 9 to engage in sexual activity and giving alcohol to minors, results from the court pending. Anton Lazaro, a GOP strategist, was arrested on 10 felony counts of underage sex trafficking, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice on Thursday, August 11, 2021. January 2004, when Jason Boebert was 24, he was arrested for exposing himself to 2 minors at a Colorado bowling alley. Sex offender turned Trump access peddler George Nader, now serving 10 years in prison for transporting a child into the country for sex and possessing child pornography. As Grant wrote, Nader had participated in diplomatic meetings with Jared Kushner and former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who went on to become a QAnon hero and devotee. This Trump-Kushner access happened despite the fact that, as Middle East Eye reported in 2019, Nader had repeatedly been caught in possession of child pornography and had previously served a prison sentence for the abuse of young boys. Ruben Verostegui, a digital strategist who had worked for both the RNC and the Trump re-election campaign, arrested as part of a federal child sexual exploitation investigation. In messages obtained by federal investigators, the pro-life activist wrote, "Babies are some of my biggest turn-ons." According to the Daily Beast, in In a group chat with 18 others, Verostigui allegedly traded child porn and graphically discussed his preference for videos depicting child abuse. Verostigui also discussed in great detail how much he enjoyed seeing children be abused and killed. Former Kentucky Judge Tim Nolan, who served as a Trump delegate and ballot observer, and who was charged with multiple human trafficking offenses, after an investigation found that he had a pattern of paying minors and adults for sex, in some cases recording them. As Grant wrote, the young woman whose story helped open an investigation into Nolan reported him to her school counselor. He was her family's landlord, she said, and he had tried to pay her for sex when she was underage and put his hand on her crotch. Nolan is currently serving a 20-year sentence. Republican State Senator Ralph Shorty, Trump's Oklahoma campaign chair, was convicted of child sex trafficking and sentenced to 15 years. As NBC News reported, the then-married Shorty was arrested in a motel room with a 17-year-old boy he hired for sex. Police found exchanges on the teen's tablet in which Shorty referred to him as baby boy and offered him cash in exchange for sexual stuff. Shorty was also discovered to have sent and received child pornography and used Craigslist to seek casual encounters with males, the younger the better. Ben Gibson, a 2020 Republican congressional candidate from Louisiana, who lost his election in November and got arrested in December on 4 counts of pornography involving juveniles under the age of 13. Trump Commerce Department official Adam Hageman, 25, has been held since last November, accused of sharing a child pornography video and commenting several times on sexually abusing children. Hageman was a member of the group for months before Trump hired him and was an active participant, often soliciting child pornography or commenting on it. He also invited at least one other person who he knew to be interested in child pornography and bestiality to the chat. Update, August 12, 2021. Today brought news of another arrest. As the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Minnesota said in a press release, prominent GOP strategist Anton Lazaro was arrested and indicted on federal sex trafficking charges for allegedly recruiting 6 minor victims to engage in commercial sex acts. Republican Congressman Donald Buzz Lukens was found guilty of having sex with a female minor and sentenced to 1 month in jail. 1 month. Republican fundraiser Richard A. Delgaudio was found guilty of child porn charges and paying 2 teenage girls to pose for sexual photos. Republican of the Year. Mark A. Greithen convicted on 6 counts of sex crimes involving children. Keep reading, it's halfway down the page. Republican State Senator Ralph Shorty from Oklahoma admitted to being involved in sodomy with a 17-year-old male prostitute and transporting child pornography. He was sentenced to 15 years. Republican activist Randall David Ankeny pleaded guilty to attempted sexual assault on a child. Republican Congressman Dan Crane had sex with a page. To be fair, Dem Congressman Jerry Studs was also caught for the same thing. The Congressional Page Scandal. Republican Congressman Mark Foley abruptly resigned from Congress after sexually explicit emails surfaced, showing him flirting with a 16-year-old boy. Republican activist and Christian Coalition leader Beverly Russell admitted to an incestuous relationship with his stepdaughter. Republican Congressman and anti-gay activist Robert Bauman was charged with having sex with a 16-year-old boy he picked up at a gay bar. Republican Committee Chairman Jeffrey Patty was arrested for distributing a video clip of a 5-year-old girl being raped, and notice, they agreed his record could be expunged in 3 years. Cameron Cottrell, a media minister at Centerpoint Church in Ocean Springs, MS pleaded guilty to possession of child sexual abuse material. Current and prior registration since moving.